Bob Wilson, Arsenal legend, admits he's very worried about Bukayo Saka as an issue threatens his career, and EDU GASPAR just issued a warning about the fantastic striker with 36 goals that Arsenal is monitoring. Stay with me until the end of the video to check out the latest news from Arsenal straight from the Emirates Stadium. But before that, if you're as passionate about Arsenal as we are, don't waste any time and subscribe to our channel right now to stay updated on everything happening with the greatest team in the Premier League. And without further ado, let's dive into today's top news. Arsenal icon Bob Wilson has now expressed his concerns about Bukayo Saka. Arsenal could be without Saka for their trip to face Manchester City on Sunday. The Hale End Academy graduate recently dropped out of the England squad with fitness concern. Given Gabriel Martinelli is also a doubt for this clash at the Etihad Stadium, Mikel Arteta may well have to field second-choice wingers against Pep Guardiola's reigning champions. Saka's absence would be a huge blow for the Gunners. The winger is a talismanic figure for the North London club and is their most potent attacker. In 27 Premier League appearances this season, the 22-year-old has already racked up 13 goals and 8 assists. However, Arsenal will know that they have what it takes to beat Manchester City even without the England star on the pitch, as they did exactly that earlier this season. The attacker was unfit to face City in the reverse fixture at the Emirates Stadium back in October, but Arteta's side were still able to triumph with a 1-0 victory on that occasion. Wilson, it seems, is not overly surprised by Saka's current fitness struggles. The 82-year-old, who made over 300 appearances for the North London outfit in his playing days, is concerned that the rough treatment that Saka regularly receives on the pitch will ultimately catch up with him. In an interview with The Telegraph, Wilson said, "What drives me demented is we have one of the best young players and, if we aren't careful, football will lose him by the time he is 24 or 25 because Bukayo Saka will have been kicked out of the game." Referees don't seem to see or understand it. There are always a minimum of 2 players within 5 yards of Saka and often a third. If they can't stop him, they kick him. I say there has not been a more kicked player in the Premier League than Bukayo Saka. I really worry for Bukayo. The club clearly share the former goalkeeper's concern. Arsenal called for Saka to be afforded more protection by referees earlier this season. Arsenal will be worried about traumatic history repeating itself with Bukayo Saka. Players like Saka will always draw more fouls than most. The Arsenal star often has the beating of his opponents in one-on-one situations, and given the damage he can do in the final third, opponents often feel compelled to stop him by any means necessary. Saka has been somewhat fortunate in that he has not sustained any serious injuries so far in his career. That, though, does not justify the unfair treatment he regularly receives. Wilson's fears are valid, and Premier League officials have a duty of care to protect players like Saka. Arsenal fans will recall the likes of Aaron Ramsey, Abu Diaby, and Eduardo when considering talented young players who suffered injuries at the hands of opponents. They will fear history repeating itself. EDU warned of tough problem in bid to sign 36-goal striker Arsenal are monitoring. Arsenal have been linked with a move for Sporting Club de Portugal striker Victor Gyökeres, but a summer transfer will not be easy. The Swedish forward has been sensational since his move to Lisbon from Coventry City, scoring 36 and assisting 14 times in 39 games across all competitions, as Europe's deadliest marksman. Gyökeres has now been linked with Arsenal among other clubs, with Mikel Arteta interested in strengthening his attacking options. The 25-year-old has a €100 million (£86 million) release clause in his contract, meaning that whilst he may not be totally unaffordable for Arsenal, he will come with a risky price tag. Fabrizio Romano has now hinted that Sporting are unlikely to waver on this asking price, making this a difficult deal to do. In his daily briefing, Romano indicated that the release clause for Gyökeres may have to be paid in full, making him a tough acquisition for Arteta and EDU GASPAR. Victor Gyökeres is a player Arsenal for monitoring, for sure he's a player who is on their list. Arsenal have still not decided who will be their main target for the summer. They will first hold internal talks to make that decision, but I'm told that their scouts have been in attendance multiple times to follow Gyökeres, he explained. The Swedish striker is having a fantastic season at Sporting. He's made an incredible contribution, but his release clause is there and it's €100 million (£86 million). We know how tough it is to negotiate with Portuguese clubs. Just look at Tottenham with Pedro Porro last January. I don't see Sporting being flexible in negotiations, so it will be a tough one, but for sure Arsenal and other clubs in Europe have an interest, so Gyökeres will be part of the strikers' domino this summer. Why do Arsenal want Victor Gyökeres? Despite his hefty price tag, Gyökeres would be an outstanding option for Arteta to strengthen his front line. The attacker brings a blend of speed and physicality in a profile that the Arsenal squad otherwise lacks, and his remarkable finishing ability could see him thrive alongside the likes of Martin Odegaard. Gyökeres joined Sporting after an excellent campaign in the Championship, in which he scored 21 and assisted 10 times in 46 games, and he has shown that he can translate his goal-scoring form to a higher level. With Eddie Nketiah potentially leaving, Gyökeres would represent a huge upgrade on the striker, and would add a lot more firepower to an Arsenal side who are already scoring well. Journalist now names most important Arsenal player, it's not Saka or Rice. Mikel Arteta will need to lean on the strength of his full Arsenal squad over the course of the final few weeks of the season. The Gunners already face a couple of difficult injury situations. There are fears about the fitness of Bukayo Saka ahead of Sunday's showdown against Manchester City. Gabriel Martinelli is also a doubt for that fixture at the Etihad Stadium. With the North London club still chasing glory in both the Premier League and the Champions League, they have very little margin for error available to them, and the games will come thick and fast. Arteta will have to rest and rotate players, and will have to put his faith in a few backup options to step up and deliver when called upon. However, James McNicholas believes that Arsenal cannot afford to go without Martin Odegaard. The Arsenal club captain has been in exceptional form this season. Odegaard is one of the most creative players in Europe, and is often at the heart of what Arteta's team do well in the final third. He is also the first line of defense, as the Norwegian playmaker takes responsibility for triggering and leading the Arsenal press. McNicholas has now argued that the former Real Madrid man is Arsenal's most important player at this point in time. Speaking on the Arscast Extra podcast, the reporter said, "I was asked which Arsenal player I would want to preserve from injury above all others. I thought long and hard about that. In the end, I actually chose Martin Odegaard. Because, for me, in terms of what he brings to the team, both in the intensity of his pressing and his work off the ball, but also just his sheer quality and ability to make and score chances, I don't think we have anyone else in that position who looks close to replicating that." Arsenal need Martin Odegaard to lead by example. Odegaard has been described as a perfect captain for Arsenal, and is clearly hugely important to Arteta. It would be a devastating blow if the 25-year-old were to be sidelined at any point between now and the end of the campaign. Odegaard will be expected to step up in the huge games that are coming up for Arsenal. Arteta will need the skipper to be at his best when the Gunners take on Manchester City and Bayern Munich in the quarter-finals of the Champions League. Of course, Odegaard is not the only one who will need to be at his best in these matches. Across the board, the Arsenal squad must maintain the exceptional form they have shown so far this year for the rest of the season if they want their campaign to end in the triumphant manner that they are dreaming of. Well folks, those were the main news for today. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated on everything happening with our beloved team, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any updates. Thanks for joining us, and until the next video.